Hi everyone, it's Rosanna. Today we are doing our first paper mache video on the channel, which I can't believe. Crazily enough, I think like one of the first videos I shared, like I don't know, the first 3 or 4, I don't know when it was, but it was for cooked flour paper mache paste. So I clearly at that time intended to do a paper mache video to follow that, and I never did, and that was probably at least 4 years ago, if not 5. So here we are. I do use cooked flour paper mache paste, but there's lots of different options, and we are going to be making a curiosity cabinet, which this is not quite finished. I'm still gonna do the finishing touches to it here in a little bit, but I just wanted to film the intro because I always have trouble with those, and I was like gonna not reveal it, and then I was like, well, that's silly because it'll be, I'm sure, like in the intro into the intro and the thumbnail. And so I thought, well, you can go ahead and see what I have from my work yesterday. We are going to be leaving, or I'm going to be leaving mine plain because I'm using papers I really love. But if you want to do one that's painted, I will be starting a series for that hopefully next week, and it will involve a little mouse, and it will involve like making a whole little cabinet room for her, and I'm going to let you choose the theme of that, but I think it's going to be whichever one you choose. It will be very fun. So I'm going to go on a digression about papers, vintage papers here, which some of you might want to skip. So before I do that, I just want to mention I've been trying to make time for things that kind of make me happy, or just kind of bring me some degree of relief, because I think we all kind of feel overwhelmed, and many of us probably feel very, very discouraged and not sure what to do right now. And so I just let myself paint some kind of whimsical little folk paintings a couple weeks ago, and then I decided I would turn them into cards and stickers and bookmarks to send to some friends as happy mail. And so I thought, I used to go on Instagram when I did things like this and just say, well, like I'll choose a few people and that I don't know, that are not already receiving happy mail from me, and send it to them. And I'm not on Instagram anymore, but I wanted to see if that could translate here. So I'm just gonna say I'll choose 3 people from the comments. I'm wondering if I should just say the first 3 comments, at least, who are saying yes, please send me happy mail. So obviously you have to be okay with me having your postal address, and you can be international. I'll send a letter internationally. So I think that's what I'm going to try this time, and we'll see how it goes. And if it goes all right, I will try to offer kind of little happy things like that every so often, or maybe quite regularly in videos. We'll see. So yeah, now I'm going to talk about paper, so you can skip ahead to materials if that's not interesting to you. And I'll be using ephemera from Hilda or Jaden Pullman, who has her collections have featured in a few of my other videos. She's not a relative, she's just someone we cleaned out her house, and they had left all these things behind, and so I just have a ton of her, in particular her paper ephemera, and that's a wonderful resource for me, and I absolutely love ephemera. I could just, a little box like this with little snippets, I could just sit over that happily for an afternoon and just be interested in all the little bits and bobs that she kept, and wonder why on some of them, and get to know her a little better on others. So I won't bore you with more about her necessarily, but I will be working with vintage papers today. If you have vintage ephemera, then this is a great time to use it. If you want to find some, my best recommendations are go to your thrift stores, your secondhand shops, look for something vintage, and some things in particular are cheaper than others now. Everything vintage is now priced higher than it was 5 or 10 years ago. But like the Bobbsey twins, those books are so ubiquitous. There's so many of them that even vintage copies, at least in my area, are still marked like 25 or 50 cents, just because there's so many of them, and they don't really have a ton of value as a vintage book. Although personally, I think that I love these covers that are you know, like we could use this for like some wallpaper in the back of a little paper mache box house or something. So I do plan to use some book covers in the future that have those pretty patterns on them. I love a botanical encyclopedia. I have a butterfly and moth encyclopedia. Those are wonderful resources because I like to use the illustrations, but I also just like to, you know, use the actual descriptions and the names as little kind of highlights in my paper mache. And then of course I've got all these letters. I've got old kitchen clatter magazines, old sewing needlework magazines. You can sometimes find those fairly cheap in, you know, in your secondhand shops or even antique stores. If they're not fancy magazines, you can get like pay maybe $1 per copy for things from the 20s, 30s, 40s. So you can find some pretty old stuff affordably, or at least I still can around here. I think that old music is very affordable too. Like this was 50 cents, but sheet music can be like 25 cents and have some very pretty designs on them. And then if you don't have any of that and you just have new paper, that's fine too. You can use any sort of new papers, and you can always just age them a little bit with coffee. If you don't like just regular papers, you could do wrapping paper or wallpaper or things like that. And then of course there's always the option of just like painting your things, which we aren't going to do today, but I'm going to start a series for a little box room for a mouse, and I will be painting that one. So if you want to paint a little curiosity cabinet, paper mache curiosity cabinet, that will be coming up. I think I will be starting that series next week, hopefully. So let's go over materials and we'll get making. Okay, materials. Paper, cardboard, like a box that's already the right size for you is ideal. But if you don't have the correct size box or the size box that you really want, you can always just put a box together and you just tape it together. You know, it doesn't need to be like just, you know, taped to high heaven, because you just need it to hang together until you get the paper on there and it starts to hold it for you. And then additional cardboard, your paste, whatever paste you will use. I always make a cooked flour paste, but there's tons of recipes out there. I thought about trying my cornstarch mix, but I don't know. I've always been happy with my flour, although that's what I said about glue and water. So maybe I think I'm going to do kind of a paper mache series, and so we will have opportunities to try just the cornstarch paste instead of flour. And then a lot of people make it and they don't cook the flour. They just do raw flour and water, and maybe they add in some PVA glue. I'm going to let you kind of find, I mean, a lot of you will have done paper mache before, and so you can decide what you want for that. I just use my fingers, but you could use a brush and stuff for brushing on the paste if you want to. And this is what I mean when I say PVA glue. So as I said, I'm not doing that kind of paste that has any in it, but if you want to use that, you can. Some people use Mod Podge. I'm just not a big Mod Podge person, and I say if you can use something a lot more basic and no toxins in it, unless you're considering like glyphosate, which is in the unorganic flour, but let's not go down that road. Anyway, this is very simple and very eco-friendly, so that's what I choose today. Okay, so this little segment that I'm just previewing here, I actually ended up putting it on the end. I filmed an unboxing of some things of Hilda's that I hadn't ever seen or gone through yet, and I thought I came upon the box because the cats knocked it down a few weeks ago, and I thought, oh, this is really cool stuff. It would be fun to go through it with you guys for the first time, so that's what I thought I would do, and then we would do a paper mache video, but I realized that not all of you are equally interested in that, so it's going at the end if you do want to see that. Okay, this is the box I'm going to go with for our little room. It is from my laundry detergent little pods. I don't know. If I had a ruler here, I would measure it, but I think it would be about 8 by 5 or 6. That's my guess for the measurements. So a small shoebox would work. And then for our little doors, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to leave this one just attached as it is. What I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to attach it with a piece of fabric. That's what I've done in the past, and I think that is sturdy, but it also is very, very flexible. I've tried it with tape, but my concern with using tape is like down the line. Concern is down the line that tape will become brittle and won't hold up as well. And I mean, the fabric would eventually, you know, like in 100 years, might get to a point where it is pretty flimsy. But I think it would hold up for as long as anyone is going to enjoy this. I don't anticipate that someone will be saving any of my paper mache pieces more than 100 years down the road, but I guess you never know. But I am just going to use some fabric, and I'm going to tape this together a little bit because it's like two pieces inside there that are wanting to separate apart. Okay, so I'm going to put a... You may not have to do this with your box, depending on what you use. I think I'm going to let this door just do its thing. And I guess that way you'll have a comparison of how easily this one is not probably going to, once I've covered it with paper, is not going to open as easily as the other side will, because I in the past I've left this area kind of free for the fabric to move easily. So we'll just have a comparison, and then I'll probably do like some sort of a little latch so that they can be held shut, because this will kind of want to just sit open like that. And I mean, in reality, I will probably display it most times with the doors open, but I like the option of being able to shut it up. Okay, so here's just a little piece of fabric, just a little scrap that you have. Anything will work, I suppose. Like I was talking about kind of how it will hold up over time, you might as well use something that seems to be in fairly good shape and has some strength to it. And then I'm just going to attach with paste here, and then attach it to the other side. And that's how I get going with my door. That's all that I've done in the past, and I just leave enough, I leave a little kind of space. So I will open it up and see how it moves, because if you attach it too tightly, it'll kind of jam up against itself. So you want there to be just that little crack there of space to move around, and that can either just be, you know, visible. You might see that tiny bit of fabric, or you can try to cover it with your paper, but that can stiffen up kind of the operation of your fabric hinge, if you want to call it that. So I'm just going to let that be, and hopefully it won't pull itself off. I'm going to get some paper to hold that on as soon as I can. Okay, I forgot I was going to do a little facade on this. Okay, so that's what I did. Nothing too fancy. But we'll just give it kind of a look of an old curio cabinet, or, you know, a decorative mantle clock. It just gives it, I don't know, kind of an old-fashioned, interesting feel. So I'm going to tape that on. It's quite thin. This isn't the thickest piece of corrugated cardboard, so maybe I should cut another one to give it a little bit more heft. Okay, so I did another layer and then taped them together, and then I don't know if this is a good idea, but in the past I've just kind of taped it on with masking tape there, but it's slightly flimsy, you know, like it's not connected super well when you do it that way. It's just hanging on by that tape. So I thought, well, maybe I could add some tabs and just go like that to kind of give it a little bit more security there. So I'm going to do those. I'm just going to tape down those tabs on the back. It just gives me more surface area, or it's kind of like an anchor. The idea of, I don't know if in construction you guys know, but you can do those metal kind of, well, they look just like that. They're shaped like that, and you use it to add some extra strength where you're putting boards together, like, I don't know what they call it. I should know, it'll come to me sometime. But it's just kind of like a little anchor of some sort. And that will, and then I'll tape it on the front there. And it will be quite, I mean, you know, everything is destructible if the right things happen to it. But it will be fairly sturdy once we have all of our layers of paper. Not that there's going to be, I don't do like layers and layers and layers, probably just 2 layers of paper. In some places just 1. Okay. So I'm just going to start getting this covered, and I'm going to start with quite large pieces, and then I will kind of cover over with smaller ones, but the large pieces are kind of handy for something this size. There's no real good reason that you have to use small strips initially, or at least I don't see that there's any benefit as far as how strong it will be. I was thinking, I had to stop for a minute, and I was trying to decide, am I going to cut some sort of a window type thing in here for light, to allow light to pass through. Because it's quite deep, and it does look really dark right now because it's this blue, but I decided against that because it's more like, I didn't really make like a house shape, and it's kind of meant to look more like a cabinet, so I was like, well, it might be kind of odd to have a window in there, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I will be happy with that decision later or not, but that's where I came out on it. Otherwise, I would take my little X-Acto knife and cut some little squares out of the back and at least put in one little window, and I could still decide to do that, but I'm just quite indecisive today. I think when I haven't been been painting, but I haven't been making a whole lot, and when I haven't been making, everything seems higher stakes because I just think, oh, I've been doing, you know, like I've been painting and doing things around my house, and so the creative stuff just isn't happening that much, and so then you put more pressure on yourself for whatever does happen for it to have like a good outcome, but that kind of is it kind of works against you, or it works against me usually when I really just think that everything needs to be a certain way and be successful, then I don't usually have things turn out in ways that I'm as happy with. And I think that's just me. Not some people thrive under pressure, and I'm not one of those people. I tend to perform really badly under pressure. So just think about your own track record with that kind of thing. And I guess if you want to tell yourself this is a really big deal because you tend to have good results that way, then do that. But I always work better when I tell myself I'm just having fun and it doesn't really matter, and you can always kind of, you know, go back and fix something if you want to. I do that a lot. And then of course there's always just things that you had to make to get to a different place. So like this might be one that I just had to make first, and then that will get me to the next thing, which is maybe something that I will like better. So that's kind of my philosophical approach. So I'm just going to get this covered with some big chunks. I'm not going to have to show you all of that because it's one of those things you can just have some, you know, an audiobook on or something, and it's just a meditative thing to do. But I'm going to try to get this covered today, but it's a really, really beautiful, super warm day, and I don't want to miss it, and so I want to make sure I get to sit out in the sun. And I do take a vitamin D supplement, which some of you have asked me about regarding like depression and stuff, winter depression. I do take a supplement, but I don't feel like it does the same. I may not show like in my blood tests that I'm deficient in vitamin D, but I think vitamin D does, like from the sun, does other things that our supplement doesn't do. And I notice like a lot of things get, by the end of the winter, like I just need that, like I'm craving that warm sun on my skin, and just feel like if I don't get some of that soon, my body kind of acts like it doesn't want to do some of the things that it does better in the summer. And I would say I just tend to I have a lot more equilibrium and ability to cope with things in the summer. And that might just be because I prefer that type of weather, but it might have something to do with getting plenty of sunlight and what that does for kind of even like circadian rhythms and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know the science of it. I just know that I've observed that the end of winter gets a little rough for me. And so I'm going to go and take my book and sit in the sun for like half an hour. That is not something I get to do every day, but I'm going to do it today because it's so summer-like, and I don't want to let this day go by and not take advantage of that wonderful weather, because March in Nebraska is like, actually it tends to be just really windy and raw most of the time, but we do get given these little gifts of summer days every once in a while, and then we will just go back to something that feels quite wintry again. So I want to get out there and soak up the sun a little bit, and I really love that. I love that door with the handwriting and kind of the brown or sepia color ink. Isn't that pretty? So I will probably not cover over that too much with more layers of other things, or I maybe should have done that later, but I just that's the other reason I don't need to just film all of this laying on of the paper, because it's gonna be just boring for you, but also I can think better about what I put where if I'm not trying to just chat with you. I wanted to mention one thing that I don't think I said anywhere, and I didn't demonstrate it very well, I think because I just haven't been doing paper mache lately, and I ended up I didn't do what I thought I would originally do, which is use a lot of small pieces on the top. Instead, I had all these large pieces that I really liked, and so I put them on thinking there would be things going over the top of them, but I liked them all so well that I didn't do that. And so what I did that wasn't really my best paper mache practice was, instead of going around and covering my corners and any raw edges of the box and doors and facade, like instead of covering that first with pieces of paper to just kind of like have all of that sealed up, I should have done that first and then added my large pieces, and I didn't do that. I pretty much added my large pieces and then had to go in and kind of work smaller pieces around that didn't cover up these pieces that I wanted to show. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like on the doors, I really should have put something around the top and bottom first to seal up that edge, and then I could have put my pieces of the letter that I wanted to show on easier after the fact, without covering over them and making it look jumbled, or just having to tear tiny strips of paper. So I hope that makes sense to you, and hopefully you can kind of avoid trouble yourself. Okay, so this had to sit while I did chores, and when I was out getting my sunshine, I thought, okay, where am I going to go with this? I need to make a decision, because I always try to, when I don't make a decision, my default is just, well, I'll just do several, and then I don't have to make a decision. So what I decided is, I think that this is a good opportunity to do kind of a series of videos, and that will hopefully help me to just come to you hopefully once a week for several weeks, maybe a month, and work on this one project, because that's why my videos get so long too, is because I'm always like, well, I don't know when I'm going to get another video made, so I'll just do everything now. But if I just intentionally make it a series, then I can bring you some shorter videos but come more often. At least that would be what I hope would happen. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to let you guys decide in the comments what you want to turn this paper mache cabinet into. It can be a little bedroom like I originally thought, or it could be, my thought outside was a toy store. And the reason I'm thinking one of those is I want, it to be for a little mouse. But I've been making, we did like the little horse polka dot pony horse pull toy in January, and I've done a few other small pull toys in the fairly recent past, around, well, I don't know, it was last fall maybe, where I did little piggies on carts, and I've done lots of ducks and chickens. Anyway, and then I have been working, I can't pull them out right now because my hands are pasty, but I have done some little kind of things to look like stuffed animals. Maybe I'll put in a, like, just, I don't like to edit in other video clips because I'm lazy, but maybe I can edit in a photo or a little video of what I've been working on. And I thought, well, that would lend itself to a toy shop or to a bedroom, because we can make some shelves, we can make a counter for a shop, or a little dresser to put things on. We can make a bed if it's a bedroom, or just, I don't know, it'd just be fun to kind of decorate the inside of our cabinet. Now this one I may, just because I really love the look of the papers that I have, I may leave this one plain just for myself, for just decoration and display. I like to put different things in them through the year and switch them around in different places of my house. So that this one may not be what we turn into a shop, but I'll use another box identical to this, and I may not use like paper that I like so well, so that I don't worry about painting over it, because my thought would be I would paint the outside to look like a shop if we do a toy shop, and if we do a little bedroom, I may just paint it to look like a cabinet, so that you can see how you know, just so you can do some painting of paper mache. And then the inside, I thought I would do probably painting in some wallpaper, or maybe I would use some fabric on the walls. I'm not sure yet what I will do, but I just thought it'd be fun to actually decorate one to look like something rather than just paper mache. I do like paper mache for just in my house, and going with things. I'm not going to cover over. I used a little bit of that German newspaper. I decided it was safe because because I saw part of the word Sir Walter, well, it was like Ter Scott, and then I saw the end of the word Ivanhoe, so I knew it was a reprinting of Ivanhoe. So I decided I thought maybe that newspaper was safe to use. The reason I'm concerned is a lot of them are from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s that I have, and so you just don't know what might be in there, and that's why I'm not ever sure if it's okay for me to use that. I don't intentionally put anything you know, sad or offensive, but I may inadvertently be doing that. So I tried to kind of use my judgment with that one. Anyway, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of the decorative bits, but I have to say these doors I'm not going to add anything else to. I like them as they are. Up here we'll see if I decide to add something more decorative. And then because I've used some envelopes, I don't know how much I'm going to patch stuff in on some of this, because I think it's interesting to see the whole envelope. But normally I would put in like a few recipes, or just a few lines of something that catch, you know, my eye, or interesting or funny or weird. So we'll see. But in this one, because I've had so many big pieces of mail that I thought were really pretty with the handwriting, I've just kind of left them pretty whole. And so I don't know how much I'm going to do with the little scraps this time. But I may just do one little side or something, so that you can see how I like to just work in little funny bits. Oh, I don't want to put that there because I want that to show, and it's not covering over the blue very well, so I'm not gonna put that there. I think I'm actually gonna put it over on this side, because there wasn't anything I just loved over there. So anyway, I'll come back, and the other thing I wanted to mention while I'm working on this is that as you are letting it dry, you might come back and check periodically and make sure that the cardboard isn't warping too much. And I mean, maybe you can just see that as being charming, and it is, like, this isn't going to be perfectly straight. My things never are. They always have a bit of warping one place or another, but where you might want to watch it is particularly with the doors. This door had been kind of warping in this corner, and so I've just been kind of bending it back out so that it's more straight as it's drying, and it's starting to hold its shape now. And I would watch your facade up here and make sure that it doesn't pull forward too much. And so what I've done is I've even actually left a little bit of space with my paper, kind of trying to pull it back a little bit, because in the past they have tended to go forward a little bit, which I don't think looks the best when the facade is tipped forward. And then of course your bottom, you want to watch and try to keep that flat if you can. They always tend to bow out a little bit, so I kind of set it over here while it's drying, that way it's not stuck to my paper. I set it on the container of paste, and I kind of press it down to push it up a little bit, that bow up a little bit, and then it tends to straighten out a little bit as it dries in that way. So I will keep working on this and come back. Another little thing, when you are covering over something curved like this, it helps to tear your paper a little bit if you've got a thicker strip, and then you can, that way it lets you turn the paper over at two kind of separate angles. Otherwise you get it kind of smushing up and wrinkling, and if you tear your paper, you can get a smoother kind of curve there. Trying to decide what I'm going to use for my special little decorative pieces, but I did decide, I had this paper from, I don't think it had the date visible anywhere on it, but I'm assuming maybe the 40s or 50s, and it was announcing winners at the fair. And I thought that was interesting anyway, because it's my local paper from Beatrice, Nebraska. So the names and, you know, are familiar, even though I didn't think I would know anyone in there. But then I did notice as I was scanning it again, Dee Pullman, that is Hilda. Oh, this one is Melva Reitzman, who I cut out because she went to my church when I was little. She was married to someone named Elvin. So Melva and Elvin Reitzman, they were a very sweet older couple, have been gone a long time now, but very nice people. And she won first place for her white bread, and then Hilda won for an article not named. It was something that was canned, and she won for her spice cake, and also for her canned beef and canned chicken. I don't tend to cut out things that are about cooked animals. That's just my own aversion. So I like when I'm talking about using recipes and stuff, they're not vegan, because that didn't happen too much, except you see sometimes with those Depression era things where they were rationing. Well, in World War II they would have been rationing dairy and eggs sometimes. So occasionally you see some older recipes that are accidentally vegan. But anyway, I usually don't pick a recipe that has meat. And I told you I don't like to cut usually, so I'm going to see how some of these, this is that confirmation booklet, I'm going to see how some of this looks. I don't know what I must have gotten into something that had blue ink while I was pasting on the last things. And I did want to mention this, I think this book is my absolute favorite of all time for paper mache. It is the Wise Garden Encyclopedia. It's a copy from the 1955. I love it because it's got all these plants, and so I can, you know, feature plant names. It has some illustrations, but the main reason I love it is for the actual texture of the paper. It's just so handy because it's not very thick, and so it bends really, you know, once it gets the paste on it, it shapes and molds easily. A stiffer paper doesn't give you such smooth lines, and so that's always something that I look for good paper mache paper, is something that's quite thin. And also I love the color of this. It's so dark and just that kind of really mellow aged color. So I came upon that years ago at an estate sale, and I'm pretty sure it was just like in a box of old books, and people didn't used to pay anything for those in the good old days. I probably got a box of books for $1. Now everyone knows that they can resell things on eBay and, you know, get $8 or $12 or whatever for that. But I did find a copy on Thrift Books of an Encyclopedia of American Wildflowers maybe a month ago, and I did pick that up because it was like $8, I think, which is more than I would pay like in a thrift store if I found it locally. But it's just hard to find these anymore, and so I went ahead and got it because I really like having these botanical names and things to work into my paper mache. So I hope I'm not just boring you. I really do love paper and books and ephemera, so I can get kind of carried away when I start going with it. Now this confirmation thing is very thick paper, so it's not going to bend easily, and I'm just going to try to figure out where I want to place that and where I want to put a few of those other things. But for the most part, I went with really big pieces for this, and I'm not gonna patch in a ton of small stuff, I don't think. So when I decide where I'm going to put them, I will come back and film that. Okay, I'm not going to do too much. This is what I decided. I'm going to do this rose. I decided I didn't really want to add a lot of color, so I went with the grayscale ones. And these are going to go here. And this little thing for her, this little scrap of her winning for her spice cake will go here. And all of these letters are to her, and then there are like bills and receipts and things that or some of them were from her dad's banking stuff. He was a farmer, but I mean they were like receipts for things with the bank or whatever. And then there are some from her husband, and I don't know if I'll put that one on top, or I don't like this, a ton of that kind of edge, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Maybe so. Maybe I'll just put that there. Because like I said, this paper from the confirmation booklet was very, very thick, like cardstock. And now where is my rose piece for this side? Well, where did it go? I hope you're laughing. The door was open, so the side was this. I had to really hunt though before I looked back at that and was like, oh wait, that's not how that side was looking before. So there, I'm just gonna, because that was kind of like where she had done some math, so there wasn't a ton on it. I just thought I'll add a little rose there, and this is where I'm gonna put for Melva Wrightsman down here. And that might be just about all I do. I'm thinking about putting in here just this was the back. I didn't realize, like, I usually do check and see what I'm tearing through on the other side of a piece of paper, but I really wanted the rose, and then I looked and I was like, oh shoot, I tore up this paint, or this print of a lilies of the valley and forget-me-nots, so I'm just going to use what's left of it in there. And then I had this idea which I may or may not show. I just thought I did once a cabinet that had, like, I had some little pictures that I liked, and I put them here, and then I just did a little smushy paper frame around them. And so I'm kind of thinking, I had this drawing or sketch I did of my grandma's home place. It's just kind of small on the right size. It was up here on my, this is a copy of, like I printed it off. But I thought I might put that inside. This is really bad of me to cut it when it's pasted, but I don't think I want those corners. And I'm going to cut off that date, I guess, because I want it to look old. So I thought I might put it here. And then you could do, I'll show you how I do. Some of you won't like the way I do a frame. So what you could do is cut out of cardboard and, an actual frame, and paper mache that. And then you could either, you could paint it metallic, kind of to look like an old gilded frame. or paint it however you want. Or you can just leave it, you know, paper. So I think I'll do this is out of, I guess, cigarettes, because it says Will's cigarettes, so they must have had these little flower cards in them at one point. I think I have some bird cards that maybe were out of cigarettes. I don't know. So I'm going to do those there. And this one wouldn't need to have a frame, but I will make a frame for it, I guess, just so that they're the same. So I'm just thinking it's just kind of a little extra something interesting when you open it up. And I know some of you will be annoyed that they don't kind of like match each other. Like it'd be better maybe if I found like two illustrations of chickens out of like a, you know, a guide of some sort. If I had some black and white illustrations of chickens, but I don't have that like right up here on my table. I would have to hunt a little bit. So that's what I'm doing. I debated using this little photo, isn't that sweet, and cutting it down, but I didn't use a photo yet. I came close. I said that I would not do that today, and of course I then considered it, but so that's what I'm going to do for now. And we will I'll show you how these little things turn out, and then I'll come back when it's dry tomorrow. Okay, so this is dried overnight, and you'll see we'll talk about some of what happened. So the bottom is kind of bent in here, and I've been trying to kind of pop it out some. This is not like a huge deal for me, but I would like to get it a little straighter if I can, and I may just end up getting it a little bit damp with paste and seeing if I can get it to bend a little bit. And here's the other issue. So I'm glad I did one of each for the doors to see how. So I hadn't left it before I experimented like that. This fabric one is doing quite well. It's not perfect, but it's doing much nicer than this side, which has cracked, of course, all the paper. Even though I kind of tried to make a little break there myself, it's pulling away and crunching all of that paper near where the cardboard is bending. So this is where I just left the cardboard piece as it was on the box. So I would say go with the fabric hinge that not only gives you a better range of motion, but it's not so destructive for the paper surrounding it. So I'm going to work on this a little bit, fixing, reattaching a little bit, and I'm probably going to end up, I've thought about just actually cutting the door off and reattaching it with fabric, but I'm just going to put a little bit of cream color paint there to cover that blue box and see if I can just smooth this out and make this nicer here. So this is a good thing to see. And then all I wanted to show you really now is that if you didn't have vintage papers to use, you can see mine are vary in their color, and I could make these two doors match, but I just actually kind of think I guess I can't make them match. Probably that's not fair to say. I think it would still be slightly lighter on that one side, but I'm going to show you what the coffee does, at least on this rose motif up here, how it is going to bring that a little closer to the colors around it. And I could do that here, and it probably still wouldn't, it's still not going to be the same as that other side, but I don't really, I like it fine. I like the contrast, so I'm just going to stick with my coffee wash up there. And this side I'm not going to do either, because the envelope I used back here was a little bit lighter. And I would mention, I think I mentioned when I was talking about the Botanical Encyclopedia that the reason I like that so well is because of the texture of the paper and how thin it is. That's so anything like a newspaper or with thinner paper is going to be easier to manipulate. And so anything stiffer, like this confirmation booklet and envelopes, is a little bit harder to get to bend the way you want it. And so it might tend to want to pull away, which is what I had happen in here. This was a part of an envelope, and it just isn't wanting to stay as well because the paper has more, it's strong and kind of wants to do its own thing. So all we need to do now is, here's how these, I literally just take a little piece of paper and I get paste all over it, and I just kind of pinch it into a little funny looking frame. I started doing that long ago, probably 8 years ago. I don't know quite how I got that idea, but I did it for little frames for fabric paintings I was doing, and I like it. Some of you may hate it, and I get that. It's just something that I like. And then on this side, I told you I put this little copy of a sketch I did of my grandma's house, but I decided I don't want that. So I'm finding out this is quite, I've never really tried to tear paper mache apart. I'm gonna work on that, getting this little frame off. And so this side has quite a bit of reworking for me to do, because I decided this is almost all Hilda's stuff. So I am going to put in this little tiny photo that I found, because it's just the right size, and I just want to have that here. I mean, I think I will use my grandma's house or some of her ephemera in another piece another time. But since this was mostly Hilda's, I just wanted it to be all about her for the most part. So I'm going to chip that off and put her picture there and do a frame like I did on the other side. And I'm going to see if I can kind of cover over this blue and get all the paper attached really well. And then all we have left to do is decide how we want to fasten our doors. Now, I will probably not keep it shut most of the time, but I like the option of having it shut. So what I had was I had put old buttons on thumbtacks to use as like a cutesy up of a thumbtack. And I had a few of those just sitting around, so I thought, well, that's kind of like, I'm not committed to that forever. Like if I decided I wanted to somehow like just string ribbon through, which was another idea I had, I can still do that. There's just one little hole through there. And then I think I will just make a smallish hole for this. This is just a little remnant from the back of a picture. It's that wire that they used to use for hanging pictures. It's like a whole bunch of tiny wires twisted together, so I thought I would just use that to hold our little doors shut. So that's where we're going to end up with this. I will come back in when it's actually really finished and show you what I decide to put in it for display, and I'll see if I can get this little warping out, but if I don't, then that's just the way this piece is. Oh, and I have so I found 2 more pieces I'm going to add. This little piece of news that she saved from a newspaper about someone having a close call canning vegetables. They had an explosion, and I just decided to draw a little chicken, so I'm going to add a chicken someplace on here, but I will come back and show you how it's all finished up. So I'm back one last time before kind of final look at it. Some of you might have known this or been suggesting it to me, talking to your screen, that the best way to remove paper mache is to get it wet again. So don't try to chisel it off. You'll be much further ahead if you just get it a little damp, and then it might not peel off just super easily, but you should have a lot more luck loosening it up and removing it. So that's my suggestion, and this is how I'm doing this frame. And some of you might be really annoyed with me for doing a frame that way, but I like it. The next one I will show you how to do a cardboard frame that looks more like a real frame, but I like that for this one, and I've liked it in the past. So there we go, and I've done a little bit of covering of that blue, and hopefully all the places where I've kind of repasted the edges a little bit will hold up. But that's how it is. I'll put in my little wire and let things dry a little bit, and then we'll kind of stage this or style it. So here's our very simple paper mache curiosity cabinet, but I do really like it. I'm going to put it probably on my mantle. It's not quite dry. It is still a little sticky a few places, but this is how I did that little thumbtack or button on a thumbtack. You could put a button through another way, and then I've just got some wire looped around there. There you can see Hilda and her little daughter, and the inside there, and then this cigarette card, I think that's what you call them. I think it's a pretty piece, and I think what I will put in it for right now is something like, I found this, which is about the right size, and you see it echoes that type of rose that I pulled out of the confirmation booklet. So we're going to put in our little teacup and a small nest that I have. And then I don't have any, like, this is a fairy egg from one of our hens. So it fits. It's from a few years ago, probably. They sometimes lay an egg without a yolk, and so then it's called a little fairy, or some people call it a witch egg. But we call them fairy eggs. Oh, and I was going to put in, I save when my hens molt, or when a hen passes away, I save their feathers. Now, usually I do, if it's from a hen that's passed away, I label them and put it in a little kind of an envelope, and so that I know it's from that hen. I know this one is from Georgie, who was a very special hen. So I'm just going to put a few feathers in there, and a little, this is a chick from a friend. It is a spun cotton, like a manufactured spun cotton chick, vintage. It's so cute, and it's so squishy and soft. I wish that I knew how to make one that way, but that's kind of probably how I would style it on my mantle. That's probably what I'm going to put in there. But I don't want to set up the camera on my mantle so you can just see it here. But that's kind of my spring curiosity box. I think that was a ton of fun, and if you want to tune in for this series, we will do a painted paper mache project, and it will be a similar setup to this, but it will be for a little mouse. And you go ahead and vote in the comments if you want to see this little mouse have a toy shop or a little bedroom, and we'll make all of the accessories and things to go with it in a series of. So I definitely had a lot of fun with this, and I will continue to cover little boxes and do things with some of my papers while I've got them spread out until my paste runs out. So I'm really happy for the next couple of days to just be sticky and gooey. I hope that you're inspired to make something interesting too. And I thank you as always for being here and for all your support and encouragement. And I wish you happy making. So this is I'm not gonna make this like the major part of the video, but I thought it would be interesting because I've done a couple of these like look what I found videos and kind of opening up a chest and going through it. But the cat's knocked something down in the basement, kind of just a big box of paper, mostly paper ephemera, and photos and things in the basement. And so I thought, well, I better just go through that and see if I can get it into an area that they don't have access to, and kind of have a handle on what I'm actually saving. And so I was going to go through it, and then I was like, oh, it'd be kind of fun to just shuffle through a little bit of it with you, because it is just one family's. She really saved. I'm sure, like, when I think about comparing what I saved to what she saves, a lot of this kind of stuff is going right into the recycling box for me. So she really did save, probably. And I know my grandma did not save anything like this. We have her journals, but we don't have, like, she did not save mail and stuff. So anyway, there are photos. I don't know if you can see, this must be on like Decoration Day maybe, or the 4th of July or something. There are some sweet little candid photos in that envelope, and then this is just an unused envelope. That would be lovely for, like, we could use it as kind of a faux wallpaper border in a little room for a mouse. So and this is such interesting. I don't know if this might be rice paper or something. But that's interesting. Just another that does have something, but it is in German, and it's labeled who they are, 1928, so almost almost 100 years old, a family photo. And then just some more snapshots and postcards. I kind of, let's see, I will recognize a few of these people. Mostly it's her family. She came from Minnesota and then they lived in Iowa. Can you see that birthday cake that someone has decorated? Isn't that sweet? And they're just posed out there in their kind of their I would have to say this is kind of what our yard looks like sometimes after a drought year. It is rough. It's probably just the farmyard, you know. That looks like maybe a house in Germany. It doesn't look like a house that people built around here. These are the sisters, so these are Hilda's 2 daughters. I don't need to go through all the photos, but it's just always fun to see. And I may sometime do a papier-mache project that incorporates, there's a puppy, that incorporates vintage photos. That's not my thought today, although I did kind of think about doing a little, if we put a window in our room, it would be interesting to use kind of an outdoor photo. Instead of, you can cut like holes in the back of your box and do a window like that, but you could also, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. So here's, I don't know if I've ever seen an aerial photo from that early. And then look, it's a aerial photo of another plane. And then down here, you can see all the chickens in the barnyard. And then I think that would be corn over there. But what an interesting photo. Taken in 1947, Harm Sanders Farm. Wow. Wow. I don't know if I could trace someone back and get that to them. Maybe they might have it, but that's really cool. Anyway, I thought, well, you could do like a faux window and put either a painting or a landscape type of photo to make it, to look out into that kind of a landscape. That's the same little girl or boy, I guess girl probably in a dress, as in that first one I showed you with her sibling. She's got a little flag. And they're on a ship. And it says something about them, but it's in German, which I can't read. This is a Valentine's Day card from 1937, it looks like. And then inside of it are what looks like legal type. It looks like this is a bid or some sort of a loan paperwork for when he built the house that we cleaned out in 1937. He started building it and it was completed in 1938. So these are some of his receipts for payments on that loan. She just kept everything. Prayer book, lots of there are a lot of little catechism type things. From Diedrich to Mother for Mother's Day. And I have one that looks just like this from one of her daughters. So that must have been, they all did one on that Mother's Day, or maybe, oops. So yeah, you could do like this to look out through a window and in a little shadow box. Oh, isn't this like Little House on the Prairie or something? A little later than that, but isn't that kind of bucolic? No label. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, that must be a really sturdy sheep. We've never considered getting on any of our sheep. I hope he's okay. What a strange photo. Not labeled. And this one is overexposed, but it's some ducks. And here are someone's iris in full bloom that they were very proud of. Aww, isn't that sweet? Okay, I don't want to show you any more photos probably. Oh, but I have to show you some chicken photos. I might have to put those in. I collect. I'm going to have like a chicken gallery when I get one of my rooms repainted. That's my idea, is to have a chicken art and photo gallery. Sorry, okay, I really will try not to show you any more photos. Boy, she did this too. Material of Grandpa Otto, Jaden's wedding suit, and it is like got a little dust or fiber there. Wedding suit, married November 27th, 1909. So that is she's saying grandpa for her children who didn't keep this, but that is her dad. Okay, here's more photos that I'm not going to go through. This sort of thing is like a, you know, a prize to find for paper mache. So I will, oh, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to be I'm going to be taking out the floral elements of this lovely religious sentiment thing, whatever it is. I will be stealing all of these flowers for something like you can just do beautiful little embellishments with flowers. So yeah, that's a good find. And just an envelope. That is actually, so that is for her brother's confirmation. So that would be in probably the 1920s or late teens. And then just envelopes and things, which are good for just the base of your paper mache. And then I saved the really special bits like to decorate on top of my base layers. I'm not going to show you all of these. There were just a huge stack of these. I think you call them cabinet cards, but just tons of these family photos. And I do think that it would be neat to read. I have done one scene using one of these long ago. It was like a Halloween scene. So I cut this out and kind of worked it into a shadow box and did this kind of spooky scene back in there. So I think those are fun for kind of a paper mache type project, but I won't do that today. Nothing too exciting, but just I love receipts and lists, anything that has different types of text that you think maybe you could either use the whole word or letters from it. Oh, here is chiefs. I don't know how many handkerchiefs, unused handkerchiefs I've found. I don't know if they received them as gifts or if she bought them to give as gifts and just, I don't know. But I have found so many of those. So that'll go over in my basket for little clothes for things. Look at how this is crepe of some sort, which I could probably reuse too, but it's also got her vegetable soups, scallop chicken, peas, carrot. So that's a menu. And then this is, I have no idea what that be. I don't know what she's kept over there. And then this is adding some things up. I don't know why she would keep that, but I will use it. So yeah, she was just a keeper, maybe a hoarder. I wonder sometimes if I am too. This is something that seems very formal or legal about her mom and dad after they were already passed away, so I don't know. And then here's a little snippet of a German newspaper. I never know what it's saying, what they've kept, and if I should be... I have used German book pages in the past. Oh, this is really stuck together. But I never know what I'm putting on there. Like it might be not so good. I never know. But isn't it beautiful? So that's why I always am tempted and go ahead and use some of it because it is very beautiful. Anyway, so that's what I will work into my other kind of collection and we'll get going. I just enjoy the look of the paper. I just absolutely love papers and hoard all these old, vintage pieces of ephemera. I've got my papers spread out. I've got the paste made, and I am ready to just like cover everything with my beautiful papers that I'm always that's my grandma's bird clock, and it always calls for us in every video, I think. It's so much fun to get into your old papers. Then I will talk a little bit more about my papers and you can either stay for that or skip ahead to materials, which are that was clever of me.